So we're here at Gold's Gym East Hartford. I'm going to catch a back workout, and no, I'm not going to film the back workout. I just think that filming workouts after workouts is boring unless it's being instructional. So we're going to talk about today some myths, okay? Things that I constantly hear all the time that make me smack my head. And the first and foremost myth is everybody wants to gain muscle and lose body fat at the same time. All right. The majority of people cannot do that, and this is why, and I'm going to explain. First of all, you need a calorie deficit of at least 500 calories per day to lose a pound of body fat, okay? It's called mathematically wise. It doesn't always work out that way because the body is a little different, but so if you need 500 calories a day in deficit for 7 days to lose 1 pound, 300 calories and 1 pound of body fat. Now, how are you going to resynthesize new muscle tissue if your body's in a caloric deficit? Not likely going to happen. You need usually an excess of calories to be able to put on muscle. Hence why people will try to lean bulk or dirty bulk or whatever bulk they want to call it. That's what they need to do to be able to put on new lean muscle tissue. So when you're trying to lose weight and you're trying to lose body fat and you're trying to be shredded and gain muscle, is it impossible? No, it's not impossible. If somebody's been training for, say, 6 years consecutively, they eat really well, they've been training really hard, and they want to lose body fat and gain muscle, it's probably not going to happen at all. If it does happen, it will be so minute you would never even know. I love when people say, like, you know, their weight goes up 2 pounds, but they lose some body fat percent on those stupid little foot scales people step on, and they're like, oh, I gained muscle. No, you didn't gain 2 pounds of muscle in a week. Think of what 2 pounds of meat looks like. Your body can't really synthesize that new tissue that quickly. Now, again, there's always exceptions to everything. There are freakish people who do ridiculous things, but that's not the majority of us. So save yourself some time and some effort and focus on one or the other. My other advice I tell people too is if they're not a competitor, okay, they want to get leaner for summer, then they want to gain muscle too. I say, lose body fat first, get to the desired leanness you want, then slowly reverse diet by bringing calories slowly back in to support muscle tissue growth. Your body's more likely to grow after a period of a hypocaloric deficit. Okay, your body all of a sudden starts going the other way and wants to put on weight, and anabolic hormones are kind of flying around. So you trying to, in the off season, say if you're already kind of chubby and you want to bulk up then get lean, then you're just adding more fat along with it. Is it possible to gain no fat at all while gaining muscle? Is it possible? Sure. Is it going to happen to 99% of people? No. Only the exceptions, and those are those little freaks that we all don't like, that look great in the gym. We ask advice and they actually have no idea what they're talking about. And the next one. Another rule is, like, people have these like black and whites they establish. This myth of black and white where, like, this is the best exercise for back, this is the best way to lose weight, this is the best way to do cardio. And this is in regard to cardio. People being like, yo, interval training is superior in all aspects. Aerobic versus continuous steady state cardio. Now, for some people, intervals might work better for them. Some people not. I can tell you that, like, all the people I help compete, some people do HIIT, some people don't. Some people do great with HIIT, some people don't. I'm one of the ones that don't do good with HIIT. I've done HIIT before for shows. Didn't like it. It drained me. It depleted my glycogen. Later in the day when I trained, I had nothing left. When I would train and do HIIT after, had really nothing left. It just wasn't for me. I rather do a moderate, consistent pace, burn some fat, create a bigger deficit of calories total calorically in a 24-hour period to lose body fat, and save any glycogen I have left in the muscle. Because when you're doing high intense work, you're burning glycogen in the muscle. Stored carbohydrates. Sure, are you burning a little bit of fat here? Sure. Are you creating still the same deficit of calories in a 24-hour period of time? Say if you did 20 minutes of HIIT, burning the same amount of calories as you would at 40 minutes moderate pace? Sure. But again, for me, it didn't work. So again, there is no perfect cardio. A blend of both is great, or finding out which one works best for you at that given time is great. But there is no black and white. So get rid of these black and white areas where this is all this or all that. Anybody who says this is all this or all that are just full of shit, and it's just wrong. Incorrect information. There's always more than one way up the mountain. The next thing is people always comparing what they did before. Quote unquote, or as you people say, that doesn't work for me. My body doesn't like that diet. Really. Back in 1990, I got shredded on the Atkins diet. Well, you know what? That's like 20-something years ago. That may not cut it now. Any bodybuilder out there who's competed multiple shows knows that every time they've done a show, carbohydrates and cardio amount pretty much was different every time. New York Pro, I was doing 30 minutes of tops cardio 4 days a week, and I had carbs in 4 meals a day, about a cup. I never got too low, and I looked great. Europa didn't work out the same. I was doing double sessions of cardio and carbs, and some days 0 carbs at all. Same year, same person, same body, 6 months difference. So you can't always judge what worked. So if you're going along, you're like, this isn't working, I'm gonna go back what I did a year ago, that's not gonna work. That's not a good idea. You gotta look at what you're doing in the last 3 to 4 days and base your changes on that. Because what you're doing the last 3 to 5 or 7 days wasn't working. Therefore, it needs to be changed based on that, not what you did 2 years ago. I'm sick of people here saying that. It drives me nuts. People are just focused on what I did do a long time ago worked. Yeah, it may have worked, but it may not work again. Every prep's a little different. Every person's different. Your body's always changing. I'm not old, I'm 33, but I have a more difficult time losing body fat now than I did when I was younger. Just the way it is. And this is the other thing too, it's another one. People, whether with preps or diets or training, people tend to do what they want to do, not really what they should do, okay? There's a fine line there, and some people who end up getting great results end up doing what they need to do is what they want to do, which works out great. There's no conflicting interest there. But most people don't. Most people are in the gym, they tell me they do the mind-muscle connection, they focus with squeeze their chest. Then I see them in the gym with 3 plates trying to rep as many reps as they can. That's not bodybuilding, that's not changing your physique. That's not putting the focus in your mind what you need to do in a muscle when you're trying to achieve muscle failure in a particular group. That's not it. You gotta do what you need to do for you. It may suck, it may not be that fun, but that's what's gonna take sometimes to progress. And people don't realize that. And this also goes with changes. When like people don't give a program, exercise, a diet enough time. They'll go through 3 days and they'll be like, oh, I'm feeling flat, I need more food, and they eat more food. And the next day they're up 3 pounds. But overall in 12 days it never changed. Because they're too focusing on how they feel, or what they want to do, not what they need to do. Screw your feelings. I mean, you want to be intuitive of how you feel and read it right, but every time you feel tired or fatigued or flat or, you know, sore, doesn't mean abort mission and change it to make it easier. You don't do that. And this other fact that kind of flies with the same myth about doing what you're supposed to do and not what you want to do is if it's working, don't change it. And I get this a lot. Okay, so somebody's progressing really well and they go, do we increase my cardio? No. Do we change my supplements around? No. Should I change my training? No. Why? If you're going and it's going great and you're putting on mass or you're getting stronger, why change a thing? That's stupid. That's like you're sitting there selling, you're making a business and you're selling crazy crab cakes, and crab cakes are selling out the door, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna change my crab cakes, making vegetarian crab cakes. Why would you do that if it's working? No, you just run it out until you see a difference and then change it. But if you change it only if you need to. I get so many people who get so much great results and then they change and they sabotage it and then it's done. So really guys, stick with one thing. That's important, okay? Stick with one thing, see if it works. If it doesn't work, change it. If it does work, don't change anything because you're gonna need to go somewhere when you need to change. Example, if you're eating 200 carbs a day and you're doing 30 minutes of cardio HIIT and results are going well, you don't wanna change it. Why would you change it to 45 HIIT and cut your carbs in half to 100 to lose more faster and all of a sudden you plateau? Then where are you gonna go? That's not what you wanna do. So let's go over them again. Losing fat and gaining muscle, it's best to do one or the other. Focus on one or the other. Again, is it possible? Sure. Is it gonna be mind-blowing to be able to put on muscle and lose body fat like crazy? No. Are the exceptions? Yes. But the exceptions aren't you. Interval training versus continuous training. There is no perfect cardio for everybody. There's none of that. You either do one or the other. A mix of them. You see what works. Get a blend of both. But you got to find out kind of what works for you at that time. In the future, there might be different periods where your body doesn't respond well with continuous, or it might be HIIT. But either one. If you're stretched for time, HIIT can be great because you can do HIIT, burn the similar amount of calories in a shorter period of time. But there is no one way up the mountain, okay? The past, your body's always changing, okay? You always base your changes on the here and now, not a year ago, not what worked in 1990, not what Joe Blow at the gym, who's like the gym hero, who does awesome at everything, doesn't mean because he follows low carb, high fat, moderate protein, that's the way to go for you. You got to try to find out what you're doing. And the best way to do that is to figure out what you were doing the last 5 days, be consistent, track it, make changes from there. Doing what you're supposed to do versus what you need to do. Do what you need to do. Stop looking at what you, don't do what you want to do what you're supposed to do. You don't want to end up falling a victim of those people that end up always want to do what they want to do, because most people pick the easiest route or the most comfortable route. Usually what you want to do is the most comfortable. No, do what's the most uncomfortable and challenges you the most. That gives the best results. And the last, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So many people are like that. Our whole society's like that. Everything's great, and then they change it, and then it sucks. It's like, why do they change it? Filled job, who knows? But let it work. If it's working, let it fly until it doesn't, then make a change.